Let's try this again. Sorry, I'm a little late, guys. It's been a little bit of an off day this afternoon. I had to do something that any pet owner hates, and we all go through it when you lose one of your little furry friends, and I had to take care of that after lunch. So, yeah, if I'm a little off my game, that would be why. But I'm still going to come in and spend a few minutes talking with you fine people, although the last time was a misstart because I managed to not have the webcam plugged in. So, yeah, a little bit of a sad day for me. But hey, we're going to persevere and make it through this. So let's start off with any announcements. And as all of you know, anybody that watches any of these live broadcasts, we are holding a new giveaway every week of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross Series. But now we're in the grand prize entry period until June 7th. That is upon us, isn't it? And that grand prize is $2,000 of store credit at Partzilla.com. So you need to head over to www.partzilla.com/LP/PRMX and enter to win that store credit for anything. So even if you're not a motocross fan, well, shoot, now's your chance to get in there, win this, and you can buy whatever you want from Partzilla.com. The chat's starting to wake up. Actually, it's not my chat. It's from our channel. Yeah, Tracy, if you're watching, if you delete that one, I didn't have the camera hooked up, so go ahead and kick it out so people aren't confused with that whole 8 seconds of looks like a throwing star. So if you take care of that for me, that would be great. So let's head back over to a couple of questions that I missed, not last week, but the week before, because I was actually sick last week. Felt freaking awful. So probably should have skipped today too, but no, I'm going to skip 2 in a row. Mike Perry had asked me, hello, I have an 08 Honda 400EX. Heard about that machine. That will turn over, but I have no spark at the plug. Any suggestions as to what I can do to fix this? Thanks. Well, Mike, if you're watching this week, if you would go to our YouTube channel, I did a help, my ATV won't start, and it just happens to be on an 08 Honda 400EX with a no spark condition, and I can walk you through that. And if Hank, if you wouldn't mind dropping that in the chat to make it easier for Mike to find, if he does come back and watch this later, he can get directed to that. But it's going to be in the playlist for the 400EX on the YouTube channel. Next question is from I Need More Carrots. Where do y'all come up with these names, man? This is great. My 3-month-old motorcycle bounces like crazy, even on small road bumps. I can literally push down on my forks using one hand with relative ease, and I guess a 10-weight oil would do the trick since I'm just a skinny dude weighing 120 pounds. Is that enough? Wow, it's only 3 months old and the suspension's already bouncing around like that. I'm curious if you get back to us, what's the year, make, and model of this particular thing? 3 months, it shouldn't be having this problem. And if it did lose all of its fluid, that would be just readily apparent. So, you piqued my curiosity. But yes, if it in fact does have oil in there and it's just bouncing around for you a little too much, most of the machines out there are sold with either a 5 or a 7 weight, and if you go to a 10, that will certainly thicken it up. But be careful doing that because it can turn it into where it won't have hardly any response at all, especially considering that you only weigh 120 pounds. I think I weighed that much in the 3rd grade. I know that we did a suspension oils video. Hank, if you'd find that one and drop it in the chat, that could guide him to the pros and cons as to just making adjustments to your forks and or shocks versus revalving versus just doing a fluid viscosity change, and the pros and cons of each. All right, Wide Open Productions had asked me, why have Z450 cranks, it just won't start? Carb is brand new and adjusted. Will adjusting the valves help anything? Well, of course, they need to be an adjustment, but we need to get back to basics here. Why is we need to make sure that it's getting air, fuel, and a spark. And we've done plenty of videos how to run down that for, basically any machine. And the fact that it's a 450, that really doesn't matter. YC 450, that won't have any bearing on finding out if each one of those three critical components are there or not. And once again, you can go to any of our vids, our how-to vids, help my ATV won't start, and start there, no pun intended. All right, guys, let's see what kind of questions we already have. Oh, okay, only one so far, so I can stay over here and catch up on the questions that I missed last week, or the week before, actually. I think I screwed everybody up on their notifications when I had that false start for 8 seconds. Hey, it happens. Joe Dan Collard had asked me, if by accident I connected the negative charger to the positive of the battery and I burnt the metal connector on the battery, did I just kill it? Probably not. I say that a little bit guarded, depending on what battery charger that you're talking about. If it's just one of these small, 2, 3, 4, even 5 amp chargers that are mainly for the smaller batteries, it shouldn't have a problem. Now, if you had this huge roll around 12 to 24 volt unit that would start a diesel truck, then yeah, you may have a problem. But if it's just a small one and it just had a quick spark on the side of the battery, that shouldn't cause any permanent damage to it. Philip Maddox, I use brake grease to lubricate the pistons and the inner calipers. I know I didn't follow instructions. Woof. Yeah, Philip, take it back apart. That grease, it's not going to react very well to the brake temperatures that your calipers are going to go through, and that is way too thick for it to actually move inside of those cylinder walls. So yes, you need to pull it back apart, get a new set of seals or rings for the caliper housings, and start over again. But no, that is not going to work at all. If anything, it's probably going to lock your caliper up, and that's not going to end well on the highway, especially. All right. Jason's hair system churning. Are these really y'all's names, or is Hank just messing with me? Thanks for taking time to do these videos. They are very informative and helpful, and I really appreciate it. I have a 2006 Honda VTX 1800, and it will only start in neutral. What would cause this? Thank you in advance. Well, my first guess would be is your clutch lever. It should have a switch up top, which lets the machine know that you've got it pulled in, which allows you to start in gear. So I would say head toward that switch and see if you can find out the problem there. All right. Oh, and I caught up with everybody from 2 weeks ago. So good. And people are starting to line up. So let's get going. Edward Carpenter, hello, and back to you, and thanks for joining us, Edward. Shuja, a 2005 Honda VTX 1300C, has a lot of vibration lately. If I pull the clutch, then it rides smoothly. Tires are new, changed final drive, engine oil, and spark plugs. Please advise. So you're saying when it's actually engaged, that's when it is shaking a little bit. When you pull the clutch, it stops. Well, that leads me to believe that something may be wrong with your clutch and or clutch basket. Those things are really bulletproof, so I'm surprised you're having a problem with it. But what you're describing could be possibly a damaged disc inside of there. It's causing uneven vibration inside of the clutch pack itself. So I'd say it's definitely time to go ahead and pull that cover off and at least do a visual inspection, make sure you don't have any mechanical damage on one of those discs. Sage Assault is asking me, can you put pro tapers on a Honda Grom and what size? Whoa. If Pro Tapers makes one for it, then sure. But that's the sizing. That's going to be up to you. It's going to be a little bit of a task to find one that's so narrow. But back from my old enduro days, we would take whatever bars were stock on the machines and cut them off. I mean, usually 1 to 2 inches. We can make it through the trees a little bit easier. So I would say if you can find a pro circuit that actually mounts in the clamps, even if they look like a bullhorn, cut them down to size. I don't have any problem doing that. So just make sure you cut the ends off evenly and don't leave any sharp edges on the end when you put your grips and the throttle back on. Man of Peace, I have a 05 F4i and I can't get the FI light to go off. It flashes 9 times, which indicates a bad IA. I think you're talking about intake air temperature sensor. I've replaced the sensor and affirmed that it was getting the correct voltage, but the light. Are we sure that flashing 9 times is an indication for that particular sensor? And that may be a latched code. So in other words, it's not going to reset when you actually correct the problem. The ECU has to be cleared. You have to acknowledge it and then clear it. And that may be something you're going to be forced to take it to a dealership so they can plug it up to whatever the latest and greatest Honda programming and code reading software is being used on the machines. But I bet you it's what they call a latching error code, and it has to be cleared by the software itself, more than likely. Lincoln Marsh. Okay, dang, I about skipped over you there, Lincoln. Lincoln says, I've got a new Yamaha ATV. I've noticed the coolant is about a 1/4 inch above the low line when the engine is cold, but when it warms up, the coolant stayed at the same level. Should I add coolant? All right, let me read that again. It's about a 1/4 inch above the low line. I think you will be all right there. I mean, because your low line, that's basically where you want to fill it to when it is cold. And as it heats up, if it has to flow into the overflow tank, then of course that level is going to come up. But I think you're fine to leave it as it is. You also continued, it's a 2022 Yamaha Kodiak 450. The manual says the level should be in between the full and the low line in the reservoir, but it's just barely above the low line. If you want to go ahead and bring it up another 1/2 inch on the inside of it, just so where you're basically right in between those 2 marks, go ahead. I see no harm in doing that. Lincoln also continued, it runs and operates normally, no overheating light or anything, and no leaks. I would just feel better if the level is halfway in between the full and the low marks. What are your thoughts? Well, then we are thinking of like a light then. Go ahead and put it in between the 2, and I think you'll be fine. Maybe even sleep better at night. I need to find my middle in between my high and low marks today. So just for different reasons. Pharmacist Beats. After draining coolant via the water pump drain bolt, there's about 1 liter of coolant left in the system. Is it safe to add more fresh coolant, or do I need to flush the system with distilled water? Good question. If you still have an entire liter in there, we need to get to wherever that remaining liter is and get it drained out the best you can. The more you can get out, the better it is when the new stuff comes in. Otherwise, you're really only replacing 2/3 of the fluid, depending on how many liters your particular machine holds. What make and model are we working with here? Maybe I can do a little back research and figure out if there's any other place that we can drain fluid from. And in the past, if the lowest part is one of your coolant hoses, well, shoot, that's what I'd go for. I know it makes a bit of a mess, but I'd go a little bit further to do that. All right. Thank you very much for answering. You're welcome, Lincoln. Econ said, put a garden hose on it after removing the thermostat. I want to just to caution you there a little bit. If you're working with a really stopped up system and you're trying to get a radiator system, and if you're trying to get it flushed out, then yeah, you can go with a garden hose, but you're still going to leave a residual amount of non-coolant in the system. So just be a little bit careful on that. Pharmacist Beats, great. It's an 09 CBR 600RR. I think most of the fluid is in the radiator. Okay, well, then at the very bottom of the radiator, there should be that hose that's going to the, is it the bottom of the cylinder? There should be a hose there. Pull that one. Just have a big catch pan. And when thinking all about pets today, when you drain any radiator fluid, make sure whatever container it's in, take care of it really, really soon, because animals think it's sweet and it will definitely take them out. So that's not what you want to find in your backyard. So whenever you drain any type of radiator fluid, coolant, just make sure you keep it away from kids and pets. Lincoln Marsh, what are your thoughts on the Kodiak 450? I think it's a great machine. I think it was a good move for Yamaha to shore up their line, or not have so many models. Seems like Yamaha, 8 to 10 years ago, had a different model for every 50 cc's. So they finally thinned out the herd and focused more on the individual cc, or the individual units. The 450 being one, which I think is a great value machine, and it's made of iron and it will last forever. For years, Yamaha has always tried to zero in on their quote Honda Rancher, and I think they hit it with that Kodiak 450. It is a quality machine that's going to last you a long, long time. All right, guys. I know I was short, or I came in today a little bit late, but extenuating circumstances that if you're curious, you can go back and rewatch this at the beginning. And you're welcome, pharmacist. Glad we can help out. But I am going to go ahead and sign off and head to the house. Don't think I'm going to actually work on anything today. All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming in to spend a little bit of time with us. And definitely go to the partzilla.com/LP/PRMX and enter to win. You've got 4 more days before we do that final drawing for that Monster Energy AMA giveaway. And it's going to be $2,000 of store credit for any way that you want to spend it. So go in and enter to win. There is no charge to do so. All right, guys. Paul, glad you could join us. And I think I'm going to call it a day. And I'm just going to call it a day. Once again, thank you, everyone, and God willing, we will see you again next Friday at 3. You have a great weekend, great week, and we will see you then.